Hi, my name is Leah Batchelor, and I will be answering the 10 questions for the interviewee responses. I'm just going to be reading them off of the Word document and responding to them as I go, so when I submit it, it will be in only one link. For the first question, it is, tell me about yourself. Well, my name is Leah. I am a senior at Eastern Oregon University. I am majoring in psychology with the hopes to become a clinical or developmental psychologist. I am very interested in treating kids because I love kids. Something I do outside of academics is I run ultramarathons. I have been a long distance runner since about the age of 9, so I would say running is kind of my stress relief. It helps me kind of get through everything, so I am a big runner. But about 3 years ago, I actually transitioned into doing CrossFit to help me cross train. So I also really love doing CrossFit, but I like being outdoors and just doing things like that. What is your greatest accomplishment in life? Well, I think I have a few that are all pretty big, but I would say my first one was I graduated high school at the age of 15 with a 3.9 GPA, 3.92. And then I enrolled in the College of Idaho at the age of 16 years old and started college as a freshman. And I was majoring in pre-medicine, and I'm now currently majoring in psychology. So that's like my biggest academic accomplishment. My athletic accomplishment that I think is just as big is I ran my first half marathon at 11 years old, which was Roby Creek, and one of the toughest half marathons in the Northwest. I have ran it now for 8 years in a row. And then I ran my first marathon at the age of 14 years old, and I ran my first ultra marathon at the age of 16 years old. And an ultra marathon is 31.07 miles, so that is a pretty long distance. The next question, how do you define success? I think this question is very open-ended. It can be interpreted a ton of ways, but academically, you can define success as getting high grades, getting published, getting noticed, making dean's list, keeping up your GPA throughout the term, submitting assignments on time. In athletics, I would think, I guess, continuing to get better at your sport, whether that be running, CrossFit, basketball, soccer, just any of those sports, just getting better, like scoring more goals or lifting heavier, running a faster time. And then overall success in life, I think you would maybe define success as being happy. I think a good indicator on if you're successful is if you are secure and very happy in your life. What song defines you and why? I did take a bit to think about this, and I have decided that Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons is the song that defines me. I believe this song defines me because I have pretty much done whatever it takes to get where I am today. I am, again, 19 as a senior at Eastern Oregon University. I have lots of PhD programs that are interested in me applying to their programs. I am still doing CrossFit. I'm very accomplished for my age, and I have done that because I've done whatever it takes. This will be my 6th year in summer school, and that means I have done 6 year-round consecutive years of school. That's kind of the way that I have gotten to graduate early too. So I saw that like reaching my academic goal has required me to do whatever it takes, and that meant going to summer school. I also, during my first 2 years, had a full-time job because I wanted to make money and pay my student loans and income. For running, I have put in work day in and day out. I suffered a major hip surgery. I had my labrum operated on, and I did physical therapy for years and years, and I got cortisol shots, and I went to my therapy religiously because I wanted to run again. So I think I would say that I do whatever it takes to reach my goal. No matter how hard it is or difficult or what obstacles come my way, I usually find a way to reach my goal, or at least try my best. So that is why I think the song Whatever It Takes defines me. What type of work environment do you like best and do best in, and what type of environment do you not prefer? So I have a couple of job experiences, and I do like working by myself. I was a COVID-19 screener at St. Alphonsus Health System, and that required me to just screen people for COVID, ask them their symptoms, give them a sticker, just kind of ask like what they're there for, and that was completely by myself. I ran a table by myself, and I did pretty good. I really liked the isolated environment. I don't know if I would say isolated because I could always reach out to management, but I did like working alone, and I do have a different experience of working in a very small coffee shop, kind of like a drive-through one, so not like a come and sit down, but more of just drive through and get coffee. I ended up becoming a shift lead so I could train other baristas, and I don't know if I would say I did great in that environment. I managed, I did my job, I got along with other baristas, but it was very overwhelmed and crowded, and constantly having to keep up with people and trusting that they would do their job correctly kind of troubled me. Sometimes management would let us know that we did something wrong, and I would kind of look back on that and ask myself, did I do something wrong? Was it a mistake that I made in the shop? And it wasn't. It was another barista, except because I am a shift lead or was, I had to take responsibility for them. And I think that frustrated me more for the teamwork aspect, so I can get along with other people. I think I prefer sometimes being alone. The next one, tell me about a past conflict you had with someone. How did this conflict arise? And how was it dealt with, and what did you learn from it? Oh, a past conflict I've had with someone. Let's see. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be personal or professional. So, a conflict that has arisen. Maybe this is a conflict that's maybe more minor, but I still viewed it as a conflict, and it's a very hot topic, so I feel like this classifies as conflict. I live in a townhouse, and we have next door neighbors, and they're very friendly. And we were talking about just our day-to-day lives, and then they asked me about going back to school. And I said, oh, it's going to be great, except, I'm vaccinated, so that means I can go and go to in-person classes, which is awesome. And then I was saying at the time, my boyfriend at the time, I was saying, oh, but he's not, so I don't know how that'll work out. And our neighbor was responded with, well, just so you know, I'm not vaccinated. And I felt like this was a conflict, but I handled it really well. And I said, oh, okay, I see. That's okay. Everyone has their own choice, and that's great. I just got vaccinated so I can go to school in person, and that's why I got the vaccine. I didn't like argue with her or say, why didn't you get the vaccine, or, well, that's silly. I just said, okay, like I respect your decision. And I think that's a really great way to handle conflict. Something I learned from it is that people who live next to you, walk past you, are your family members, are your friends, they're gonna have conflict. Conflict is inevitable. And I think the best way to handle conflict is to just be respectful. And obviously, when I was respectful to her, it didn't escalate the situation any more than it already was, which wasn't anything. It was just a difference of opinions. But I think that the step that I took definitely prevented further escalation. So that's what I learned from it. We all make mistakes we wish we could take back. Tell me about a time you wish you'd handled a situation different with a colleague. I guess school or work. I don't have very many conflicts in school. I like to stay in my lane, but in work, I can go back to my job at Human Being, the coffee shop. Like I said, I was a training barista, so I would train others, and there was this new girl who came on, and she couldn't pass her drink test. She couldn't memorize the menu or do any of that, and she was a very difficult barista to train. I'm not sure what her struggle was, but either way, it was falling on me because I'm the training barista, and so it kind of fell on me by management of asking, why isn't she getting better? Are you not training her correctly? what's going on. And so I was very frustrated, and I just kind of didn't handle it correctly, because as the shift lead, I thought I was training her right, and at the moment I thought it was my fault. In the end, it wasn't. She just couldn't entirely grasp the concepts. But I did talk to her on the side, which I think was the correct thing to do. I feel like I could have handled it better, maybe, but I did pull her aside privately and said, hey, I'm not sure what's going on. I want to help you, but you're not advancing, you're not getting better. What's going on? And I don't know, when I think about that, it's kind of like, did I use the right words? Was I mean to her? She took it really well, but it was definitely an awkward situation that it's not that I wasn't comfortable, I just don't have a lot of experience in handling that, so I was just kind of confused on what was going on, and I wish I could have had more confidence to say, I'm training you, you're doing great, but these are the things you need to work on. I see that now, and I see that I probably could have done that. I just wish I could have probably been more relaxed, or not have worded it so awkwardly to make it feel like it was her fault, because sometimes you just need a different teacher. Describe a time when you struggled to build a relationship with someone important. How did you eventually overcome that? This one's personal, but me and my mother haven't always been that close, especially from the ages of 11 to pretty much 16. We are very close now, but it was really tough to be friends with my mom. I'm not sure. I think it was just different life stages, different life crises. She had a different view on life than I did. We just weren't really meeting each other's expectations as a mom and a daughter, and it was really tough for my family dynamic. But the way that we actually handled it was great. I'm very happy and proud of how we handled it. We ended up both just talking for years. It was really hard at first, because typically it was I'm not going to say screaming match, but what I would say didn't impact her or didn't land with her, and the same with me. What she said wasn't making sense, and so we had to work really hard on our language barriers. We both speak the same language, but our cue words that make sense to us, we just weren't. I didn't know what she was saying because I didn't understand how she was phrasing it, and so we worked for about 5 years really hard to understand what we both meant. And so previously we would get into an argument and it would just be hurtful, and now today when we get into a disagreement, an argument, or just a conversation, it's very respectful. I'm going to listen to your side now that I know what you mean. She's going to listen to my side now that she knows what I mean, and I'm very, very happy with our relationship now, but it took just years and years of talking and going through trial and error. It was difficult, but we overcame it by just putting in a lot of effort. Tell me about a time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on and how did you get through it? I think I'm actually under a lot of pressure now, currently, all the time, and that's not a negative thing either. I work well under pressure, although I'm not a procrastinator, but times that I have a lot of pressure are finals week. I usually don't take less than 18 credits. The past 4 terms at Eastern Oregon University, my first year here, I've taken 21 credits every single term. I wouldn't say that was a lot of pressure, except maybe this summer term, and a little bit of last term was pressuring, because assignments load up, they build up, and it's a lot. And with academics, it's really difficult to sometimes just figure out your due dates and prioritize. The way that I get through it always, because I know it won't get any better when I go into a PhD program with assignments, papers, clinicals, teaching, is I usually I'm extremely hyper organized. I look at task lists, I map it out in my brain and say what is important, what is the most important task right now. And I'm very lucky and fortunate, and I am able to just sit down and do an assignment, and then I knock it out. And it's really great. It is sometimes difficult, though, to just kind of sit down and focus. But when I am under a lot of pressure, I try my best to handle it healthily. Because, like I mentioned earlier, I want to be a child psychologist. So psychology is really important to me, and the concepts behind it of being mindful, taking care of yourself, understanding life dynamics is extremely, extremely important to me. So I always try to be mindful about what's going on in my life and how to take care of myself and how to make it the best situation and push through. So that's kind of how I handle pressure, how I handled it, especially last term. Give me a number, or give me an example of a time you managed numerous responsibilities. How did you handle that? Like I said, I'm very good at task organization, but a time where I had a copious amount of responsibilities was the fall winter term of my sophomore year at College of Idaho. At College of Idaho during that time, the hip that I had surgery on was extremely painful. It was just so bad I could barely walk. My range of motion was at least cut in half. I still had my job at Human Being. I had 8-hour shifts every day, and I'm a shift lead, so it's constantly on your feet and walking, which aggravated my hip. I had 21 credits at the time, again, which is a lot of credits. And I kind of felt like I had the responsibility to do everything by myself, even though that completely wasn't the case, and I understand that now. But the responsibility load felt like a lot, and it could even go back to the last question of how you feel under pressure. I definitely felt like I was under pressure, but when I prioritize tasks, I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but for me it works. Whenever I have just a ton of tasks, I always prioritize academics. Academics goes to the top of my list, no matter what happens. So my hip was hurting a lot. I had a responsibility to go to therapy. I had a responsibility to pay my car payment, and the responsibility to go to school, get good grades, and it wasn't helpful for my hip, but I put academics at the very top of the list. So I prioritized going to class, getting good grades, doing my homework, and just being a good student. And then I kind of took care of what fell next on the list. I looked at, car payments, book payments, just lifestyle payments, and I paid those off. And then the very last one, which I wish I probably could have prioritized more and made a bigger responsibility. It's just at the time I didn't see it as a priority. I wish I could have took more responsibility to maybe take more time off of work and aggravate my hip less, because the constant 8 hours of standing on my hip really probably didn't help my recovery. But that's how I handle responsibilities. I think I handle it decently. I think I'm very, very good and efficient at quickly prioritizing. I can usually look at a list of tasks, and in about a minute I'll know this goes to the top of the list, this can go at the bottom, this is like moderately important. Let's get the prioritized one done, then let's move down the list, down the middle, and then we'll get to the very last one when we can. I am very confident in my ability to do that. And that is how I manage responsibilities. Okay, well, that is the end of the 10 questions. I appreciate you for listening to my responses to these questions. Bye!